Holy crap, what's up, everybody? It's Steve with Range Minded Podcast, and I feel pretty privileged because I'm actually in the Boise Valley tonight.
God, it's about time you make it over
I
here.
know it. Right there, you got Nick Hoffer, as usual. And we actually have two other guests. One you already heard from, Drew.
Shy Drew is what we're calling him.
The one who said he didn't.
Call me Shy Drew.
I don't want to talk to anybody, and then he talk for 20 minutes.
That's kind of like when I did my first podcast. I think we did a show on that, like when I was so scared to go on that first Forge Your Potential podcast, and then now I'm on one every weekend.
Yeah, it's no biggie.
Yeah,
but we do have somebody else that we talked about on Instagram and made a big deal about, and we're fawning over.
Well, he's smoking cigars in my shop, which is a huge no-no because they're, I don't know. And then he's ashing in one of the Patriot trays. He's
testing its durability.
Yeah, like he owned the place. Walked in while we were talking to Drew on
We're going to take some pictures on what he's wearing, too. By the way, it's Ryan from FieldWorks. Ryan, what's up?
Hey, thanks for having me. I can confirm and not deny that the Patriot trays do hold up to cigar ash.
And it looks like, well, that one already looks like it was kind of melted, so you're good.
Yeah, it's like a two for one, so go for it.
Well, now we can add that to the recommended uses for the Patriot tray.
Yeah. You can smoke a lot of cigars. That's a lot of ash you can put in one of those trays. Or whatever you smoke. Whatever. Like Nick's neighbors.
Yeah, apparently somebody around the shop here is a big weed smoker.
It's obvious.
It is very obvious.
So I went over to Terry's. We've had Terry on the show before, and I walk in there and I'm like, dude. He's like, what? I was like, can you smell that? He's like, does it smell like weed? I'm like, yes, it smells like weed. It's like, well, I'm not smoking it. Like, I know. I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, it's one of those things, it's not legal here, so I can't confirm or deny any kind of wrongdoing. But all around the country where things have opened up, you can kind of smell things everywhere. It's really weird. I never felt the need to push the envelope, so to speak. But I doubt that I ever would.
Yeah. It doesn't appeal to me.
No. When I worked for said energy company, when I worked for said energy company, we did plenty of market tours in Denver, Colorado, Denver and Aspen, and so on and so forth, setting up for X Games and everything like that.
French or Aspen?
Oh yeah, anywhere that you walked, it was something that you smelled on the daily over there.
We went to SHOT Show a couple years ago. I took my wife, and she's not used to any kind of smells like that. She's like, what is that? And I was like, she's like, is that a skunk? We're downtown Vegas. Sure, yeah, it's a skunk. I was like, no, that's not a skunk. What is it? I was like, that's weed.
Yeah, Vegas is bad.
Bless their hearts.
I haven't experienced the whole wanting to smoke weed thing. 33 years old, and I could care less about it.
Dude, I got a buddy that's like all about it. Even though he's like, he doesn't say he does it, but it's pretty obvious.
You know what's weird is I grew up born and raised in Southern California. It wasn't a big deal, as a kid, law enforcement, if you got caught with some sort of weed or on you, or you didn't get in trouble unless it was over a certain amount of weight. It's like an ounce basically. So whatever that is. Not that I know what an ounce weighs.
So because you said weight, so I remember there was one time when I was a teenager, and I saw a pound of weed, and it was like a big black trash bag, and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of weed. Yeah. Like, a pound is a lot. Like, 25-gallon trash bag.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, especially if you don't smoke, it's a lot to look at. But if you're a pothead, it's not. You can
you're like, oh, that's a weekend. Yeah.
I'll burn through that in a couple months. Yeah, but they don't. The law enforcement in Southern California, ever since I can remember, really, and I'm 42 now, they would just, if it was less than an ounce, they would just have you throw it on the ground and step on it and just kind of whisk it off into the wind or whatever, and you would just get cut loose. Anything over an ounce, you get it. You might get a ticket or something, but everything over an ounce, you get hooked up. But so that being said, it wasn't that big of a deal to most dudes that were floating around. It's like the cops are, you're not even going to get in trouble if you have it. So what's the risk reward ratio?
Most people don't get in trouble now anyway.
Yeah. So
they don't get in trouble in California for DUIs anymore. Like I have a really good friend that I graduated high school with, and he's a sheriff over there. And I was like, hey, how's everything going over there? And he's like, oh, with all the law changes and everything like that. He's like, literally, like somebody who's drunk driving. Like literally, we hand them a citation. We tell somebody to come pick them up. And then that's the end of it. Like we don't even take anybody to jail anymore.
Well, they don't want to burden the jails, right? They don't want to put too many more people in there.
Like he's
well,
like,
the war on drugs is over now. So,
and who won?
I
was just wondering.
Well, I'm gonna say that the government won because they got to put enough people in jail to make a whole shit ton.
Well, the only reason the government won is because they're playing both sides of the team there.
True.
We can sell drugs and we can buy drugs.
Control the flow.
Yep.
Right. Supply and demand.
Anyway, so Ryan, for those of them that don't know, listening to this show, because we just kind of jumped into it because we were having a really good discussion off air,
and I got my ass chewed.
And,
why aren't you recording, Steve?
And I told Steve, we should have started this like 15 minutes ago. What do you do? Just a quick, whatever you want to
What
tell
can you
us about
say
what
that you do?
Yeah, so you got to drop a couple of octaves first. Hello, my name is Ryan Atkinson. I handle security matters for celebrities abroad. I look after rock stars and pop stars, basically. So the last 20 years, I've been on tour with celebrities from all across the spectrum, whatever you listen to. It's usually rock. The last 12 years or so. But yeah, I look after, when I tell people I look after rock stars, like, what does that mean, look after? Like, what are you talking about? Security. So if you come out and tell people you're a quote-unquote bodyguard, it comes off as a very douchey. People that are in the security world don't call themselves a bodyguard no matter what. Nobody that I know or work around has ever called themselves a bodyguard. It's kind of like let's say, diminutive?
Demeaning?
It's kind of you're lowering yourself. You're a security director. You look after people. You do more than security. Security is one aspect of what you do.
Yeah, we heard a fantastic story that we're not going to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Unless you want to talk about it.
Oh no, that one. If we're bending the law, I don't talk about it. Yeah.
There was no bending of the law.
Well, not for my sake.
Yeah,
but
you're
for
safe.
the people that are helping me bend the
well,
law.
that doesn't matter.
Yeah. I could never throw those guys under the bus.
I would never suggest that anyway.
Yeah. So it's weird in the rock and pop world. If you're someone that's of high profile and you're a celebrity, you get away with a lot of things. You could bend the rules, so to speak. So I've lived in that area for the last 2 decades. So the way I act around people is indicative to the way I live on the road. So I try to keep everything sorted out and squared away as much as possible, but there's always a gray area in my world. So that's where I live.
It's awesome.
Well, there you go. If you didn't know who Ryan was or follow FieldWorks, now you know.
And maybe even some of your favorite celebrity pictures, if you see him on tour, you might have seen Ryan standing.
Who is that person that you always post pictures with? It's a female. What was her name?
Oh, let me think. You mean Hillary Duff? Yeah.
Oh, it was definitely Hillary Duff.
Yeah, Hillary's like a little sister. I worked with Hillary on payroll for 8 years. So I started as her security person, then turned into her assistant, and then turned into a day-to-day manager. So I was managing everything. And with a person like that, you've got all kinds of stuff going on. You got TV, film, radio, music type stuff. You've got you're a brand at that point, so sponsorships and brand stuff to deal with. When I was with her, she had hired some folks that were looking after the Olsen twins, Dual Star Entertainment, Greg Redlitz. Those guys were kind of nuts. They take your brand and they make it another thing. If you want to sell pillows to people in Singapore, that's a different type of branding.
Right.
How would you ever control the amount of bedspreads and pillows you sold to Singaporeans? You would never know who bought what. So guys like this come in and they put your brand out there to the entire world. They have those contracts, those connections all around the world, and they get you paid for stuff that you would never have your finger on if it wasn't for a person like that. So the whole world opens up when you hire people that are branding type folks around the world.
Yeah, my wife just commented on the live feed that Nick is doing right now on his Instagram, and she said, "I love Hillary Duff." And so, like, when I told her like I met you and everything, and I was like, Ryan's like one of the nicest. Like you would not expect Ryan to be the person that he is, and like literally like from meeting you from the very first time, like out and then like you like explained your job description to me, I was like, that does not fit like your personality. Like you were like one of the nicest. Like people get into like, and this happens all the time. Like people get intimidated by people that have tattoos or like are very
Ryan doesn't have any tattoos.
Oh yeah, Ryan has zero tattoos.
I think the only part of him that's not tattooed is his face.
My face and hands, yeah.
That's
about it. I got my toes done recently.
But I saw that.
Like people get intimidated by that, and like literally like when I met you for the first time, I'm like, dude, like he's like seriously like for like his background and for what he does, like he's like one of the nicest people that I've ever met in my entire life, and so like.
Thank you for that.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
He's not really that nice. I've hung out with him and he's not being nice.
Nick's seen a different side of me. Just a glimpse, but yeah, there's a duality of man in all of us, right?
He's the only person that can chug a beer faster than me.
Well, we're about tie, I think, but I'm happy to tie over and over.
I do not think it's a tie. I think you have him beat, but I think Drew's been practicing because he was adamant that he was going to chug a beer against you.
Yeah, well, I haven't been practicing. It's just ingrained in my chromosomes, so I'm happy to go anytime. But yeah, the attitude thing, it's weird because when you work with people that are celebrities and travel around and do stuff, you don't want to, you can't walk around motherfucking people. You can't walk around beating the shit out of people. It's just not reality. So whatever people have in their mind with a bodyguard or a security person that some kind of badass, whoop everyone's ass and kill everybody. It's not the case, You're a communicator, you're a planner, you're a person that puts yourself in front of that person and gets things done. If there was no one around a celebrity or someone that's like a household name that's walking around Earth, if there's no one there in a professional capacity to manage that movement and the things that are going on, nothing will happen because everyone will stare at the celebrity and take pictures with that person, and nothing actually productive will get done. So you have to have somebody around that'll push the schedule, push the itinerary, and just in a nice way, get things done, make the connections, and have an understanding of what we're doing. So you should know what you're doing before you go in, but it's a clarity. You could turn around to your client and say, here's what we're doing. 3 15-minute interviews, and we're going to start in 10 minutes. Are you good to go? What do you need? Here's what we're talking about. Here's your talking points. Here's what you're promoting. Go.
I feel like I need to hire Ryan when I go to events because I spend the whole time bullshitting over here. 10 minutes over here turns into an hour of me talking, and then I turn around. I'm like, oh shit, I was supposed to be there. Yeah. Like I understand exactly what you're talking about.
Getting sidetracked is a thing, and that's what I'm there for. Is to have my watch on, to point at my watch when needed. 5 minutes. Good interviewers will sit there face to face with your client while you walk behind your client and do the 5-minute call. Last question. Oh yeah, there you go. They give you the quick nod and just keep talking. So you might see that in Entertainment Tonight or whatever interviews now with someone looking up and going, okay. Good interviewers will do that. Will understand what you're doing as a handler.
So do you, outside of the security and the direction that you're doing now, is that your background? Like, did you do this before?
So I haven't done anything else as an adult in my life. I started doing security when I was 22. So I graduated from University of Kansas. I played football, graduated. NFL wasn't in my cards. It's one in 1%, 2% of kids' cards. So it wasn't. I'm the 98% that didn't make it to NFL. Yeah. It's not a failure. You just didn't make it, So I got hired by a guy named Pete Beadle out of Kansas City. He ran a company called MPB, and he hooked me up with Pearl Jam. And I went out as a 22-year-old, I became Pearl Jam's venue security person on tour, which is.
That was your first?
My very first job as an adult was Pearl Jam, Riot Act tour. So it's weird to get thrown in the deep end like that, and there's some failures along the way, which I'm not ashamed to admit. I'm a kid.
Well, it helps you grow, right?
Well, yeah. I came out of the bar. I was bouncing at a bar in Lawrence, Kansas, and Now I'm security director for the band Pearl Jam, a band that I listened to as a kid. I listened to the 10 album over and over on my tape player. So
Every little kid's dream.
yeah, it's weird. But, once you get introduced to the band, you're like, these are human beings. Okay, the band, here's what we're doing. You understand what they're doing out there. Why are they there? It's not for fun. It's a business,
Yeah.
So the more you get, ingrained in the business aspect of things, the more you start to understand as a security person what your job is, and it's to avoid litigation and to avoid any kind of the band getting pulled into court for whatever they didn't do. It's just, everybody wants to sue famous people, rich people for whatever different reasons. So your job is to kind of curb that, to be proactive.
So I know that you've told me that you've traveled to a lot of different countries. This kind of takes us over into the things that you do outside of the glitz and glamour of running around with celebrities all day long. We've talked on the show before about some of the training that you do, but before we get into that stuff, kind of tell us what it's like to travel to other countries. I know we can't carry guns in these other countries, so I think that you told me in the past that's kind of where all of this other training, the knife stuff, the hand-to-hand, the evasion type stuff that you teach other people, like that's where it came from?
Yeah. People in the United States get very comfortable with their pistol or their firearm.
Yep.
You can carry it everywhere. As long as I have my pistol, I could shoot any human on Earth and just win the fight.
It's American dream, right?
Yeah, it's the American way, right? We can have our pistol and do stuff with it, and we're good at it. Once you take that off, you realize what it really is, And I spent a lot of time in Europe, Southeast Asia, South America, you name it. I'm all over the place. In the last 20 years, I've worked in 53 countries, right? So it's a lot. You move around from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. I've got news for you. You cannot carry your firearm as a personal security person in any other country.
Right.
Canada, Mexico, doesn't really matter unless you're on some sort of government paperwork or contract work. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get hired by a celebrity and be the quote-unquote bodyguard and travel with your gun and shoot people. It doesn't happen. It cannot happen. So you start to learn how to source things locally. So if I can't pack it, source it. If you can't source it, pack it type thing. So you learn how to figure out how to get things locally everywhere you go without saying too much. You rely on people that are local to take care of you and to give you what you need. And that's a weird bond that you have to form over years or over time. When you meet somebody new in a different part of the world, you don't necessarily trust that person, even if they're a security counterpart. You just don't really believe what they're saying, and you're vigilant, and you're all over them. And then after, I've been out of 20 years. So, for example, when I go to Brazil, if I go to Rio or Sao Paulo or Curitiba, whatever it is, Belo Horizonte, I know people in those cities and those markets where I can hire them. I trust them. I believe what they're going to say. And they don't lie to me. So they can source local law enforcement and whatever we need on the local side, and I can carry that stuff around. But it doesn't really make sense to carry a firearm in other countries. You move so fast that you will get jammed up in buildings or airports or whatever it is, and you just don't want to have that stuff on you. You're just going to get in massive trouble. So you insulate yourself with local guys that have guns and know how to use them, and you go on with your business of managing these artists. So it's weird. The world of security becomes a management world at some point, and you have to think of yourself as a manager, not a security person at a certain level.
Well, it kind of takes the stigma out of it, like you're saying.
Yeah.
The bodyguard just translates as asshole.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that you spent more time coordinating, scheduling, maintaining way more other aspects of that personality's life than just safety.
Yeah, I won't say who it is, but it's a former SEAL Team 6 Gold Squadron guy that I'm a friend of, and a great resource for shooting and everything else. And
Great guy, by the way.
Yeah. And he says that amateurs talk about tactics, professionals talk about logistics.
That's not the guy that gave me a bloody nose.
No.
Yeah,
Different guy,
yeah.
Different guy.
That's the
I
guy
was like,
that's
wait a
going to
second.
give you
It's something.
Because Drew said that, and I was like, wait, I don't think that's the guy.
Okay, so we're not talking about the same guy.
That's an SF guy, yeah.
Oh, okay,
That's
so we're not
kind of-
talking about the same guy. Okay.
And we were talking about someone else in that context, and he was like, well, you're a professional because you talk about logistics. You don't talk about tactics, And I'm not clearing rooms and stuff. I don't do that. I don't go and shoot people in the face. I'm talking about movement. and moving people around the world. What does it take? Who's with us? Are there 15 people with us? How many cars on the other side? If you got one van on the other side of 15 people, you're gonna get jammed up. What's the luggage doing? It's all about where am I going next, And everybody focuses on that suit and tie MP5 on the tarmac with the private jet shit. It's not reality. The reality is who's with me and what are we doing?
I can only imagine like how much shit is going through your brain all the time while you're working.
Constantly.
Like everything that's I mean, we talk about situational awareness on the show. We talk about knowing what's going on, but you're literally watching and seeing everything and having to figure out your next 3 to 4 moves with 15 people in tow.
Yeah. You can see anyone with half a brain can see what's happening in front of them. It's not about that. It's what's happening next.
Yeah.
So it's being good at that. Where are we going now? Okay, that's cool. What's on the schedule the rest of the day? And putting everything in perspective and timing and the schedule and just managing that schedule. You can get carried away talking to your buddy for an hour. Imagine if you're a celebrity in a room full of people that everybody wants a piece of you. You get sucked in that vortex for 5-6 hours. Like, no, we're here to work. There's a schedule of things. I can't give my energy to everybody. So enter Ryan. You manage these people because a celebrity's got to be cool and nice to everybody. And and not to be the dick that says, hey, look, we're not doing that right now.
So does the reason that you become the so-called manager, is that because they try to keep less people around them? Because I always just assumed that like you had like the security guys, the guys that took care of the security and the stuff like you're doing, and there would be a manager and like somebody who was managing where they needed to be, who they needed to talk to. But it sounds like what you're saying is you kind of do all of it.
Yeah, it's funny. Quote a person that I met early on in my career that told me a line. I manage the managers. So everybody's got an angle. You have your music manager, you got your film manager, you got your personal manager, your mom manager, whatever it is. All these people come into one room and everybody wants you to do something. So they'll spend that attention currency that you have every morning you wake up. You only have so much shit in your brain. You can't deal with endless amounts of stuff. So they'll go in there and say, I want this, I want that, I want that. Everyone wants to program their little section into your schedule, but then it's up to me to kind of find a balance in that, to read your client. Is that person becoming exhausted with the same questions over and over? When you go to a press tour, a virtual press tour, you go to CNN or whatever it is, you're on film remotely talking to 100 markets in 2 days. And even though they're 10-minute interviews, 2 days full of 10-minute interviews turns into a shitload of talking, a lot of energy, So just managing which ones to cut, which ones to push forward or to reschedule. It's an art, it's a craft, You have to learn that shit.
I was going to say, is there anything, because you mentioned you played football in college, is there anything in your life that you felt like helped you or benefited you to get to your point where you are now?
What's funny? As far as schooling or anything else, no. I tell people, and I do classes and I do courses and I teach people things. I kind of open up with, I have never missed a day of school. I have never missed a day of work. And it's true. I never have. No one in the world could tell you that I've not showed up to work. We're meeting here at 7 p.m. I show up at 7 p.m. That's the way it goes. I put my shoes on, I put my gear on, I got my stuff prepared.
In this case, Crocs.
Yeah. And I show up, and I'm ready to rock. Like, I'm ready to do it.
Yeah.
And that's been my life, since I was a kid. And it comes from my parents, Like, my parents never allowed me to not go somewhere or shoot something off. Or, I got chicken pox in the summer when we're on break. I got the flu in the summer when we're at the pool and stuff. I had to stay at home and train juice or whatever. I never got sick. I never was absent. And then over time, I learned that, my dad and my mom, they never missed work. My brother never missed school. I got a trophy when I graduated from high school that I never missed a day of school between first grade and 12th grade.
Damn.
And everybody laughed, including me, because I was a jack off. I never missed.
You never missed.
I never missed. And it says something about you. When you're the person that shows up and they're reliable all the time, everywhere in the world, it's a big deal.
That is.
You need people to show up.
Yeah.
If you're paying someone a crazy amount of money to be there, hey, shit, I'm going to be there. when I get off an airplane after a 12-hour flight to Australia or 15 hours or whatever it is, 24 hours sometimes it takes, and you have the press in front of you when you land, your client is famous, and they don't feel like talking to anybody, and you have to manage that. It's a weird thing, you know. It's you have to be able to just nut up and go to work.
Yeah.
And that's the big. I swear that's the biggest thing for security people. Just go to work, like show up and not be pissed off and not tell people your problems and just put a smile on your face and be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. What? Go ahead. You had
It's
a
a
question.
big deal.
You didn't have a question?
Well, I have a ton of questions,
Ask 'em,
but
dude.
I was letting you go. 'Cause
No,
I've
you're
been
good.
Kind of,
No, you're good. No, you go.
so up until 2019, do you have an idea how many celebrities you worked for?
Oh God. I could go through and with a pencil and paper and Name drop.
Just a guess. We don't even need their names.
Yeah,
I don't know,
No
like-
names necessarily.
15, 20 big acts, you know, celebrity. You know, if I told you their name, you would know who they were. You know, it's not a whole lot because when I travel with people, I tour with them for 2 years at a time. So,
Right.
you know, I work for Motley Crue. It's 16, 24 months. It's a tour.
Well, 20 is way more than I expected you to say. Because I mean,
Yeah.
ever since I've known you, you've been with the same person, the same group, and I'm like, 20. That's a lot. Like,
There's a lot of people I don't talk about because
Sure.
I just don't like them. And it's better
hey,
to
I
not
know a
talk
lot
about
of
them.
people too that I don't talk about for that same reason.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why you never answer my calls.
That is
Yeah.
exactly why I never respond to Steve's call.
It's a thing, you know. If you hate the person's guts and you're like the closest person to them, then just shut up. That's what you get paid for, is to be the professional secret keeper. You know, I've kept a lot of secrets for very famous people for a long time, and that's what you get paid for, is just not opening your big fat mouth.
Yeah.
Because it's newsworthy. You know, TMZ's on the news now. It's
Oh
like
man, I can't even imagine having to keep secrets from, or I'm not even just secrets, but like keep your mouth shut on like things that you just like witnessed in person for celebrities, because sometimes like even me, like you don't think about, oh shit, that could be a big deal for that person.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal for me and Steve, but if Ryan said something about what XYZ celebrity did at the bar last night, it
Yeah.
could be global news.
Well, it could change their whole.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So
I was working for a female celebrity, not for a long time, but if I said her name, everybody would know who she was. I mean, she did a lot of big shows and a lot of performances that were memorable, a lot of big hits. And every time I was with her, she would just bang some other male pop star, and I just get left in the car or left outside, texting her manager, do you want me to stay while she bangs this person, or should I just hang out like until she's done? Pull an all-nighter or whatever, and just I'll be out here in the car like, hey, you just got done fucking your brains out all night. Here I am to take you home. It's awkward as a human. So, you know, that one didn't really work out, but I'm not into all that. You know, I'll do what I can.
So I guess up where 2019 is where I was at. So doing management for these stars, you do rock stars now. So you're doing concerts, and COVID hits, wipes that out, and you took kind of a turn, and that's kind of what everybody who knows you on Instagram really knows you for, is what you've been doing for about the last year and a half. Which, so let's transition a little bit away from the celebrities, and let's talk more about the training that you've been doing and the knowledge that you accumulated over these years of doing all this management. And now you're still doing the management. I was just, when he walked in, I'm like, oh, I didn't know you were working last week when I was texting you. And you're like, gotta go, gotta move these guys off stage. And I'm talking to you about some dumb holster shit.
Which happens.
And I'm like, oh shit, yeah, go.
Yeah.
Shit, dude. I didn't
Why are
even
you talking to me?
Yeah, I didn't even respond. Just in my head, I'm like, what the hell's he doing texting?
Yeah, that's a weird part of life for a person that travels with a celebrity or celebrities, is that you have to manage your life at home, all the people, your family, and when people that are celebrities are in your face and they're doing stuff with paparazzi or fans, or it could be 100,000 people in front of you, and you have to manage that. Your attention to go in so many places. So I mean, I've been in stadiums full of people texting my girl, you know, like, I can't talk. And people that are around me long enough just know, like, leave him alone. He'll get back to you. I always circle back, but there's just things that require my attention. But the training stuff, yeah, I've been training, going around teaching folks things that are inside my skull, things that have been bouncing around my head for a number of years. And I've had a lot of good instructors or people that have taught me things over the years. And it's funny when you learn things, it's just knowledge transfer. They're just telling you things that they heard from someone else or pressure tested or whatever. I just took all these things that have been told that I've listened to with my ears and I've processed in my brain, just kind of regurgitating it to folks that in my life, from my world perspective, you know. So every time you take in information, you always make it yours, you know. So it's just like, how can I make this mine? How can I make this mean something to other people? You know, so I've been teaching people a mixed skills course around the country based on the things that I've learned over the last 20 years and in my professional life in the light that I see it. So in my lens, so to speak.
So if you were to describe the training that you do, like what's a 15-second, 30-second,
oh God,
what would I
What's
expect?
your elevator pitch?
Yeah, what would I expect to come to a class with?
If you've ever sat there and listened to me for 2 days, my 2-day class, it's a brain scramble. People leave, they're like, I don't even know. It's going to take me a while to come down from this whole thing because I just throw shit against the wall or your brain and see what sticks. You know, when I say things, certain things will make sense to you. So I try to cover all aspects of the whole, both ends of the spectrum, so to speak. But I talk about myself and what I've done because I think that if anyone tells you something as an instructor, they should tell you who they are and what they've done. Because if they don't, then they're full of shit. If you can't verify what they've done, then they're full of garbage because you should have some sort of background, some sort of backing before you talk to people about stuff.
Sure.
So I talk about myself quite a bit, and it's usually interesting, I think. I tell stories about, you know, the people I've worked with, and I try to break it down to the dynamic and the aspect.
I think one person that will probably never run out of stories is Ryan.
Yeah, I don't run out of stories. It's all New York Times bestseller stuff. It's good.
Yeah, you're gonna write a book in 20 years.
One day. So I talk about myself, and I go into this nerdy situational awareness stuff. So learning how to pick apart your brain and why you process things in a certain way. I talk about that for a while. Then I talk about deconstructing environments, going into a new environment and just breaking it apart, looking at things in a different light, basically. So, you know, in some respect, looking at things like a bad person that's about to do something. So that's a big deal because we don't think like bad people. We're all good people. We don't break the law. And when you go into a space ready to kill somebody, you start looking at things in a hyper-aware fashion. So everything gets analyzed carefully. So to do that and to just kind of scale it back and figure out how to make that work in your day-to-day life, I think it's a big deal. So I do deconstructing environments, and then I talk about targeting soft tissue with edge weapons, so modern knife design, reverse edge design, killing people with a knife, etc. And then I go into counter custody stuff. So it's an introduction to counter custody being kidnap, ransom. It's been something that's been on my plate for forever, really. You know, traveling to South America, Southeast Asia, it's been a thing to mitigate mitigating kind of kidnap ransom situations. So when I go into other countries and I with $1 billion package in my jet, I have to constantly think about, you know, getting kidnapped or what if we get abducted or whatever it is, what's going to happen next. So it's been something that I've been exposed to a lot over the years, and I just want to pass off whatever I've learned over 20 years to people that want to hear me talk.
So, and I would think that what you were talking about with like knowing what the bad guys are thinking, things like that, and breaking that down, that's something that in your career that you have to do in order to protect these people. Know what the threat is thinking and where. That's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because when you work for celebrities or famous rock bands or someone high profile, you attract all the government agencies. You know, so if I'm in Central America or South America, you best believe that the mayor or the president of whatever country or city I'm in is going to show up because it's an event, it's a national event. So if I'm in Paraguay or Uruguay or whatever it is, the president's coming to the show. You know, he's going to show up with his security detail. And it's going to be a scene. They want to be seen there with a famous Hall of Fame rock band. They don't come through often. So you start picking things up. You stay in this gray area between government and police and the underworld, basically, because back in the day, the underworld ran rock and roll. The underworld ran music. Yeah. It's just the way it, and people refuse to acknowledge that. And I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by people from both sides. Some around dignitaries from lots of countries, and people that are so nefarious that you're like, what the fuck are we doing around this person? This guy is shady. Yeah, this guy's doing lines of blow in his room, and he's just like got girls everywhere. And he's 70. He's from the old school, like people do things a different way. It's cash business, lots of cash. But then you got your president next door in the next restaurant. It's really weird. There's definitely a mashup or a gray area between the two, and that's kind of where I've lived as an adult. So when I tell people stories, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Brian's like a rock star without being the rock star.
Yeah, you don't want to be a rock star. No, fuck all that. No. It's good to be a fly on the wall sometimes.
Like, he gets to do all the rock star stuff and see it, but he can't actually sing.
Neither can most people I work for, so to be fair.
Auto-tune, baby.
Yeah.
So do you find it, and I think I know the answer, but do you ever find or feel like overwhelmed when you go to some of these crazy-ass countries where it's just like nuts?
I feel overwhelmed all the time. It's sitting in it. It's sitting in that foxhole of overwhelm. Like the overwhelmed feeling foxhole, you just sit in it. You just like learn to love it at some point.
Yeah.
And that's what makes people go. That's what makes people good at their job, is people that could be overwhelmed all the time and just fucking cruise right through it.
Yeah, there's no way you can succumb to that feeling because
you can't.
Too many moving parts.
I always tell guys when guys are new security people or they get hired and they're working for someone famous or whatever for the first time, I always tell them, people will remember you for the bad times. They'll remember you when shit got tough, how you reacted to it, when things went south, how you reacted. When you had to whoop someone's ass, how you acted. It's a unfortunate part of the job. You gotta whoop some people's ass sometimes, and make sure there's no cameras around. But with the way you act when things get all on top of you and the pressure is just crushing and everyone just looks to you for leadership, and if you snap and you act like an asshole, everyone's gonna remember that the rest of their life. They'll never forget the way you acted. They won't remember all the good days where nothing happened. There's nothing eventful and our job was well done. No one remembers that shit. It's the shit that happens that goes south. So when shit goes south, you have to recognize that and say, look, I'm in the pocket now and act accordingly. This is like slow motion being recorded in everyone's mind right now. You have to keep that in mind. It's that everyone's remembering everything you say and do at that point.
Yeah.
It's on record.
Sketchy.
It's weird.
It's got to be tough. Like,
it is tough, yeah. And I've had failures in the past. Anyone that's done what I do for as long as I've done it tells you that they've never had a failure. They're full of shit. Yeah, they're just embarrassed.
That's how you learn, right? That's how you
learn more.
Plan or whatever.
You learn more from failures than your successes, for sure. I mean, shit burns a hole in your head.
So, I think one thing that everybody kind of wants to know too is, how did you get into what do you guys call the reverse blade knife scene? Like, you're like what they call an influencer in that industry.
It's weird because I never meant to be. So, the whole internet knife stuff was just me fucking around basically in hotel rooms around the world. I really, I had an aversion to social media from what I do. I had stalkers to deal with and weirdos online. I never wanted to come in any kind of contact with these people. It's just counterintuitive to what I'm doing to make money.
Shit wouldn't stalk you after I've seen your Instagram.
You'd be surprised.
Videos.
People are strange. People have this weird anonymity or whatever it is, and they feel like they can say whatever.
One of my most popular TikTok videos is Ryan stabbing the living shit out of his dummy in his garage.
That's the thing. The Bob dummy is good. Yeah, if you want to practice movements. The reverse edge thing, it actually came from being introduced to a guy named Scott Babb. Scott's a dude from San Diego that goes by Libre Fighting on Instagram. And Scott's an interesting guy. He's a really sweet guy, but also a total maniac. Love the guy. He's got an interesting way of looking at knife violence, not knife fighting. There's no such thing as a knife fight. At knife violence, it's just breaking apart everything, all known data. So there's a certain amount of data that's available to us. Just take all of that in all at once and break it down. So mainly surveillance footage or security footage in prisons or on the street. And you see people in South Africa with the low line attacks, or people in prison with a highlight attack to the face and neck, and just see what's effective in those environments, you know. And Scott did his own pressure testing down in Mexico with live subjects and live, you know, law enforcement people, and they went to work. Without saying too much, the stuff that he had, you know, theorized over the years was true. You know, it was pressure tested and it became true. So it's not, you know, go in your garage and do, you know, drunk karate for the internet. It's actual stuff that's been used on human beings in the last 10 years, you know. So Scott Babb's been a big influence on me, and I just subscribe to that way of thinking and that way of fighting, really.
Yeah, Libre, I find that an interesting, I don't want to say theory, but I guess doctrine would be almost a better way to put it. Because I do some martial blade stuff, you know, because I find edge weapons.
I find them scary.
They're
as shit.
They're scary as hell, but they're also really effective when you use them right.
Yeah, it's pretty gross to think about. I mean, you start doing organic medium testing, if you're starting in soft tissue.
When I sat in on Ryan's class over at Forward Movement that day, I've watched him mess around. He's talked to, he's shown me stuff. Like, but when I was like, holy shit, you're fucked.
Yeah.
If he gets at you with a blade.
Yeah. It's one of those things, yeah.
Not to mention, I loved the part that really stuck with me on, like, the mentality part is when you talked about a lot of the methods that you were teaching came from criminals, came from people who are locked up in prisons, and the way that they use anything that they can as weapons. And then you talked about those blades and how you're not just stabbing and wildly cutting. You're actually, like, when you take the class, if you have that red tape and you're talking about the arteries, and you're slashing the arteries, but you're also stabbing in the face. I would have never thought to stab somebody in the face.
It's weird because we can go to firearms instruction, firearms courses, basic pistol, carbine, whatever it is, vehicle, carbine stuff. You can break it down to every situation possible, and it's all cool. USA, American flag, great. We're killing people. But when you start talking about when you start talking about stab people in the face, everybody goes, whoa, whoa, whoa.
That's exactly
that's
it.
the money maker.
And I watched the people in the class. So, like, I've seen Ryan's stuff. I've talked to Ryan. Like, I've seen his videos. We go out and have beers together, and he comes to the shop, and so we talk about it. But you watch the people in the class. You watch people sitting in the chairs, and he says the first it's 2 strikes to the face and a palm to the, and they're like, what?
Yeah, it's like, weird. It goes back to the, excuse me, are you a doctor? Do you know that man's dead? When we shoot things, you go bang, bang, reholster. It's like, no, that's a human being you're trying to kill for a good reason. Yeah. If you're trying to kill, you shoot him to the ground. You're not a doctor. You don't decide whether he's dead or not. Keep that pistol out until the threat's gone, right?
I tell people that all the time. When you're talking about holsters and reholstering, so it triggers a conversation I have daily here. When people are talking about reholstering, you know, why are you reholstering your gun? Speed reholstering is not a thing.
That's how you lose.
We are not going back to the holster fast. We're coming out of the holster fast. We're keeping the gun out until the threat is 100% gone. And then we might put our gun away so we don't get shot by the police when they show up.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're not speed reholstering. Reholstering is not the important side of a gunfight.
And it's amazing how many, I know we're not talking about gun classes, but it's amazing how many people I've interacted with in classes that are like, they think they need to get in the holster quickly. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
It's a good way to shoot yourself after you just saved yourself.
Is the threat still moving? Like,
nobody wins a gunfight by putting away their gun first.
Exactly.
You don't get points for that.
Oh yeah, you pump 3 rounds on that guy, but you know, is he still moving? Is he still a threat? Is he still moving towards you?
Yeah. Like, are there other threats in the environment?
Exactly.
I don't know what's going on.
And that's the other thing people don't even think about.
I think one of the biggest failures in training has been when people have been trained to 1, 2, 1, like 2 to the chest, 1 to the, and then they stop, and then they reholster. Well, what if you missed that second shot and that guy is still actively engaging you? But because you've done it so many times,
you get that scar.
You've gone 2 to the chest, 1 to the head, or 2 to the chest, and you've shot that box. and you've checked the boxes, that guy's still coming at you because who the hell knows why.
Yeah.
But now you've put away your gun.
Yeah, people don't really talk about knife violence in that regard either, because everything that's in our mind when we talk about killing somebody or defending ourselves from somebody, our family, or doing the righteous thing, we think about gun violence, So I shoot somebody, it creates this giant wound channel with a 5.56 or a 9mm or a 45 or whatever. And there's a lot of energy going into that human being. You can see with ballistic gel or whatever it is.
Right.
With a knife, that energy is not going into them. So that's a big part of a gunshot wound is the energy that goes in the body. It's everything.
Yeah.
I mean, a 223 is like a 22.
I was gonna say, without that energy, that 223 would be a needle.
Exactly. People just keep fighting through it. So with knife violence, not knife fighting, you talk about stabbing people and targeting arteries and whatnot, and you're fighting all the way through. You're fighting them to death, basically. So for them to circle the drain and to bleed out and to lose consciousness and blood pressure and everything else, you should not stop until that person's down on the ground, bleeding to death, really. So teaching people that aspect and that way of thinking is shocking to a lot of normal brains, Yeah.
Well, Matt, Steve, we've talked about like the mindset of concealed carry and gunfighting and things like that. That's one thing, like especially we're in the shop today over at my shop, and people who come into the retail store and we are new to carrying a gun, and I talk about the mindset of concealed carry and potentially having to take a life. Some people don't realize, like, when you put on your gun, why did you do that?
Yeah.
You did that because if somebody threatens you with bodily harm and death, you're going to potentially take their life. And that's why we carry guns, is to defend our lives with deadly force. Well, when Ryan talks about knife violence and things like that, you don't just cut them to get them to back away. Like you pulled a deadly weapon for a reason. Those people are coming toward, and I don't think a lot of people take that into at the grasp that it really is.
Well, and sometimes people don't even know they're stabbed, right? That guy punched me. What the heck? Yeah. And then they're wondering why they feel that warm, drippy feeling.
Yeah, my shirt's wet. It's weird. You talk to people about. I forgot what I was saying.
I do that all the
Must
time.
have been important.
It was juicy and important.
Yeah,
it was really good.
You bring up an interesting point, Nick, because I've had people leave classes after the fact being like, well, I'm not going to carry now because I don't feel like I can maintain that responsibility of maybe taking a life. And when you get intimate with anything edge, like that is a totally different level of responsibility and making that mental commitment to yourself. Like, this is another tool in the toolbox I'm willing to use.
That goes right back to the things that I've said in previous episodes of when I get up in the morning and I get ready, and before I put on my pistol, are you prepared to carry your gun today? Are you prepared to do violence to someone if needed?
Yeah.
And that's literally, it sounds stupid, but it's something that, like, when I take my gun off the nightstand and I'm putting it on, I'm thinking about it and I'm asking myself to prepare myself mentally to, if I go to the Starbucks and some dude is holding a gun to the barista's head, dude, I have a fucking gun.
Yeah.
Am I going to turn around and walk out? Or am I going to stop that guy from killing that person?
And really,
because that's on me.
And more people should be having that conversation with themselves when they put that knife in their pocket or put that gun on. Like, hey, I might have to use this today.
Well, we all wish that we don't have to use it, but we obviously carry it for a reason. And it's not to feel tough. It's not to
I don't want to get in a gunfight, dude. I don't want to have to use any of that
It's
stuff.
a last resort thing, and I think that it's something that is very important that goes over a lot of people's heads when you start carrying weapons. I mean, when you have a reverse edge blade in your pocket, you didn't put that into your pocket so that you could open Amazon packages. You did that because you weren't carrying. I mean, obviously
it's going to happen.
Obviously, we do that. Like, we do that with those blades. But the reason we're carrying it is either we don't have a gun, we can't carry a gun like you when you go to other countries, or if we need to, we're going to use that as a violent weapon to defend ourselves, our kids, our lives, and that's why we have it. So we have to keep that in the back of our head that that's not just a pocket knife for opening boxes.
Yeah.
That's a life-saving tool.
Yeah. I was talking about a paradigm when I talk to students or people, other human beings, about doing stuff to other people and what we're willing to do. Is awareness is the first one. So awareness, what you're situationally aware of. Do you have the file folders in your head to recognize things? If you see a situation that you've never seen before, you go condition black, suspension of disbelief. You can't believe it's happening because you've never seen it before. So internet videos and just things that are going into our brain that help us with that. Training is the biggest aspect of that. Being prepared. So your preparedness. Are you ready to deal with something if it comes to you? Is it having something on your body? Is there one in the chamber? Is there something off body in the bag? Do you have your medical with you? Do you have a tourniquet on you? If you've got a gun, why not? I don't want to carry it. It's too much shit in my pants. I don't know. That's your prepared level, right? And then willingness. That's the big one, the willingness. And I've met a lot of really cool people in my life, a lot of guys that kill people for a living, and a lot of people that have killed a lot of people. I mean, I know some of the guys that have killed more people than anyone in the world. And they've got an interesting way of looking at things. We can all fantasize about what we're willing to do and shit, but until you get put in that situation, you really don't know.
Right.
So talking to people that have been put in that position over and over is really interesting to me. And I try to absorb as much as possible. I met a guy who was a SEAL Team 6 Gold Squadron team leader guy, a well-known trainer. And he told me that if he was in his vehicle in Idaho, this state in particular, and some asshole came up with a gun and put the gun in the window and said, "Give me your car, or I'll blow your kids in the backseat, their brains out." He's with his kids and his family or whatever it is. And he would just give them his car. And I was waiting for the punchline to boom, boom, you burned them down, you smoked them, right? He's like, "No, I'm just giving my car. I'm not willing to risk my kids' lives over my vehicle."
Right.
That is something that I have told multiple people here. Like, why do you care if someone steals your purse?
Yeah.
Cancel your credit cards.
Which is hard for me, a guy like me to hear, because I'm a knucklehead.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Burn his ass down right now. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, so we fantasize about, like, what would happen if somebody were to steal my shit. And then you get somebody who's more than qualified to burn the fucking world down. Yeah. And they're like, I just give them my car. Yeah, because it's not worth taking their life over my car and putting my kids through seeing that and doing all of that. Just give them the purse.
I've always heard have you heard of the Shark Tank theory? I talk about that in my courses and my classes. If something were to fall into a tank of hungry sharks right below you, like you put a 12-foot round circle in front of you with sharks swimming around, if you were to drop anything in the world in there, would you go in there and get it to face those hungry sharks, to go get that item? So if it was your Rolex watch, or if it was your phone, or your whatever, your computer, would you jump in there? Probably not.
Most likely.
But if your son or your firstborn falls in on accident, would you even think about it? Or would you stand there and watch your child get eaten by sharks because you're a pussy and you wouldn't do anything about it? It's something that happens inside of we have to be willing to do it. That's your willingness aspect. So
that's one of the best analogies I've ever heard for that situation.
Shark Tank.
Yeah.
No, that's something that I've talked about with my wife, like in a real life situation. Like if we're in a grocery store with a kiddo and shit goes down, like, hey, yeah, I'm drawing my pistol, but I'm making sure you guys get out the back door first.
Yeah.
Before anything else.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to draw my pistol, and I'm not going to go running towards gunfire or anything else. I'm going to draw my pistol. I'm going to make sure nobody's shooting at us, and we are sneaking out the back door.
Yeah.
And we're getting the hell out of there, because my number one priority in my life is my wife and my kid. Yeah. That's my number one priority.
I see where I see where I rate now.
Sorry, love you. Sorry, but that's my number one priority. Like anywhere we go out, like my wife, like she'll try. Like when we go to breakfast, and if she sits down in the seat that's facing the front door, I tell her no, switch the seats. I want to see what's coming through the front door. So I've listened to a lot of your stuff, and like just from the conversations that we've had about situational awareness and just being aware of what's around you, like that has changed a lot of the ways that I've just gone through my daily life.
Yeah. I want to jump in right there because Brian had told me something. I think we were sitting down at Roosevelt one night. We were talking about that situational awareness, like sitting in the restaurant or whatever, and he made a statement. He said, "Well, where's the kitchen? Where's the entrance to the kitchen?"
Yeah.
Because there's always a back door in the kitchen. And I thought, fuck, I've been in the restaurant industry half my life. I never even thought about evacuating through the kitchen. And then he goes, yeah, you leave through the kitchen. Everybody's watching the front two doors, the
front door,
main
back door.
exit.
Yeah.
But the people who leave through the kitchen, they slip through the cracks, and you're out of the situation. You're gone. You don't have engagement.
And guess what? It's not
enforcement.
locked, and there's a push bar on it because of U.S. code, and I understand U.S. code.
Yeah, and as soon as he said that, I was like, shit, I've been missing an entire exit my whole life.
Yeah, that's the third exit you don't think about. It goes back to the OODA loop, when you observe and orient, decide, and act. It's like, so someone walks into the restaurant that's shady, I observe them, and then I might orient myself towards them so I can observe them better. I might orient my pistol on my waist. It might be on my 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock. I just want to touch it and make sure it's there. Or make sure that the handle's poking out of my underwear, whatever it is. If you carry a gun, you understand. Orient, decide, and act. You decide what you're going to do, and then you act on it. And acting might be running away. And that's where, alpha type dudes get stuck in the OODA loop is like, decide, act. Decide, I think about it, act, shoot that motherfucker. We only think that way. We think linear. We think about we're going to be the hero. We all want to be the hero in our own story. But decide and act might be run away.
I'm by myself.
Yeah, bust through that window and leave because maybe you don't know you don't have the unknowns in your head. There could be 5 guys outside.
Well,
you don't know.
Ryan or Drew, sorry, you said if you're on your own, but even if you're with your family, like when you get your family out the door, like you're not going to necessarily come back into the situation.
Not necessarily. No.
Because if you've already gotten out into the parking lot, out to the truck, and you have the potential to leave, because I think this is something that Ryan had said to me, was like, I don't want to have interaction with the law enforcement. I don't want to answer the question. If I'm out of the situation, I just want to go.
Yep.
I want to be as far away from it as possible. So if you've done your duty, which is to protect yourself and your family first, or your client, whoever it is that is your obligation. Obviously, we want to help other people. We want to help disarm the, but we have a priority, which is our family or the people who are paying us to protect them. Yeah. So if we've gotten them out, we're not doing them a service by leaving them and going back to help other people.
Right.
Because especially if law enforcement is already on scene, we're definitely not going back.
Yeah. Goes back to that old rap line. Every family is not filled with gangsters. That's real.
Right.
Like everyone that's with you at the table is not going to get up and shoot somebody. Likely, you're the only person at the table that's going to do it. Yeah. So what about the other people? How are they going to react? Suspension of disbelief, condition black. I go blank. I don't know what to do. Mouth open, freeze in place. Probably.
Or what if on the flip side, Ryan's on that side of the restaurant, Steve's over there. Today's the first time they met. They're both thinking kind of the same way. If you're running back in with a gun,
you could be the bad guy.
Ryan might think Steve's the bad guy. I mean, he's got that bald head. He looks like he could be a bad guy.
Exactly. Yeah, if you're on your own, like if you're out by yourself and you're concealed carrying, it might be a different situation to where if something walks into the restaurant and presents a threat, might be a different situation. But when you got your family with you and the whole 9 yards, there's a lot of different things that come into play on that aspect. And so, like the thing that I've made up in my mind is if something like that happens, my number one goal: get my family out. Get my family out, get them to safety. I am not going back in. I'm not re-engaging anything. Yeah. I'm making sure that I'm getting them out of there and that they're safe and they're safe from harm.
Well, every time when we start to overanalyze it, we're starting to add these cogs right into this clockwork. Right. And then suddenly we're so complicated that we hit black. Right. And I don't even know what I'm going to do next. Just act.
Yeah. Yeah, think of a plan. Conditioning your tribe or your family is like one of those things I struggle with because, like I said, every family is not filled with the same kind of person, Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you're
to that.
Yeah, you're some kind of wolf that's like gonna pounce on everybody. And you train. You got cardio. You got strength. You got firearms. You got a knife, and you got all these tools in your belt. You know how to use them. Fantastic. That's great. but you don't know the unknowns. There could be 15 guys that walk into a place. There's people that get robbed in stores 15 deep right now.
Yeah.
They're just grabbing bags and leaving out of Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
What do you do then? Shoot everybody?
You gonna
I don't
shoot
think
them
so.
for stealing a purse?
Yeah, you carry your magazine with no additional magazines, and
Yeah.
it's like you
I've
just
got
spent
6 rounds in my gun. I got this.
Yeah, are you gonna do that? Is it the
If
Shark
I'm
Tank?
if I'm in a Nike store and they're robbing the whole store, hey,
Yeah.
see y'all later.
Yeah.
Have a good time.
Did that insured Nike stuff fall into your Shark Tank?
Have
And do you
fun.
give a shit?
Yeah, have fun.
Or do you give a shit about the kids that are with you and your wife that's with you and getting them into a safer position or improving your position? It's a thing to work through in your head and to teach the people that are around you certain things incrementally. I teach my kids all the time, like when it's dusk or dawn. Hey, what are you thinking right now? I'm thinking it's dusk. And what happens at dusk and dawn? It's between light and day. So the cones and rods in your brain, your foveal vision, everything else, they think differently because you're confused. As a human being, you're confused. You don't know if it's day or light, so your vision is fucked up. You're not perceiving like 30, 40% of the shit you normally would. So you should know that. You should know that about your brain. When it's dusk to dawn, like you just, it's half light, half dark. You're not seeing everything because your brain is confused. You should know that about your anatomy and your human body.
There's a nugget right there.
Yeah.
For those of you listening.
Yeah. So when I get up and I drive my kids to school, a high schooler, he goes to school really early. What is it? It's dawn. I know. But guess what? She knows that. Yeah. She knows that she's not seeing things. She's not paying attention to really a lot of stuff around her. The numbers on houses, the cars that are parked in the driveways. You just don't look at it. You look at the things that are important in front of you, right? Because you have attention currency you spend up, right? So you only see so many things throughout the day. You don't see everything. When you're driving on the freeway and you're going 80 miles an hour, you don't see everything off to the side. You see certain things. There's a baseline. You see anomalies. You see things that break your baseline or under your baseline. So it's important to teach people how their brain works and to understand it. So it gives them a heads up when things happen, when an anomaly pops up. You have to deal with it.
Right. You talk about teaching your tribe, right? So I have a 19-year-old son. And he's been on the show, and I've even talked about this on the show before. So every time we'd go into a restaurant, I'd be like, "Okay, where are the exits?" Right? And so he got to where it was almost monotonous. Like he kind of got sick of it. But and we'd constantly play games. How many guys with hats are in the restaurant right now? We
tell people OCE, so overt, covert, exit. When you walk into a new structure, a new building, or a restaurant, or whatever, what is in my face? There's overt shit happening. There could be speakers blasting. There could be dancers. There could be Chuck E. Cheese. The live Chuck E. Cheese band and Chuck, or whatever. That's it.
Did
That's
you
shit.
watch over them too?
Yeah, yeah. The stinky little piss balls. Yeah. There could be things in your face, and guess what? Everybody's looking at that. And there's covert stuff. There's people that are suspect in the room that break your baseline. That guy's a gangbanger. That guy's a mysterious looking dude. That guy's fingernails are dirty. He's got bags under his eyes. Looks like he might be on meth. Whatever file folders in your head, you make conclusions about everything. We always try to complete a story about people and situations. We like to be the unsolved mysteries person and just solve all the mysteries in the room. We do that naturally. If someone's walking around your neighborhood door to door, knocking on doors, you say, "Wow, he's probably delivering water."
Why is that person doing?
Yeah, but you don't ever go.
Like a strange car drives down your street that you've never seen before. You're standing at your front window, like, why is this person driving down
But
the
pay
street?
attention next time that happens. You will complete the story in your head. Well, he's probably a Mormon. He's probably whatever.
It's probably Steve.
Solar salesman.
Yeah, you just don't know. But we don't like this unknowns because it'll just leave us on this cliffhanger. Like, oh, I need to find out. So we complete the story so we can move on with our life. It's not a threat. We just round the curve,
So something from when I sat in on that class that has still stuck with me and that I like too. I mean, there was a bunch of it, but you talked about, you had that watch, and it was the Wi-Fi jammer, and you said, now you know what it is. If you see someone wearing one of those, they're probably up to no good.
Yeah.
And so now it got me to thinking. I'm like, so if you pay attention to what things are bad and what bad guys use, when you see those, and this is what you were getting at, when you see those things, you will start thinking, is that guy up to no good? Because why the hell else would he be wearing a Wi-Fi jamming watch?
There's no crime school. There's no university for bad guys. They learn like everybody else learns, except for prison, where you put every bad person in one enclosed environment.
That's the university.
It's like the Harvard of bad guys.
But people learn the way we learn. It's just, you have to learn things. To put file folders in your brain so that when you see them, you can understand them. and make your conclusions or judgments based on those clues, those pieces of the puzzle. You can put it together faster. So I try to show people that are nefarious, things that are nefarious, things that people aren't exposed to normally. It's like you don't know how to make chemical bombs because you're not going to put chloroform into a room. But here's how people do it. It's like,
and now when I see people walking around with a big mason jar, with a little mason jar inside, I'm like, that motherfucker
That's a chemical
has
bomb.
a fucking chemical bomb.
Yeah. So it's a thing, or I put a bunch of things out there and I say, look at all this shit that you can get past security screening. Look at all the stuff that people have no idea. They haven't even seen it. They don't know what they're looking at. But if you know what you're looking at, it changes everything. Yeah. Looking at things in a different light. That's all it is.
Right. Crazy.
Well, what do you got? See, you got any more questions? I know I could go on for hours.
Well, it depends on how long we want to go.
I don't know. Do you have more questions?
Well, I really want to ask the 5 questions to Ryan.
I don't know about that, but I really
You don't like those 5 questions?
I do, but I'll wait for a second. So I really want to get your perspective. So you have trained with Spartan blades. I've watched Ryan's training. I've done. I engaged in it. But
Spartan mode.
Spartan mode. Sorry.
Yeah.
You confused me because you were holding
Spartan
these
blades
knives.
is Attleboro knives. Yeah.
Yeah, we had these knives, and he was talking about Spartan
Adam
blades.
Boyce. He's a friend of mine.
Spartan mode. Adam Boyce.
Adam's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And so they have a different style.
Yeah, absolutely.
You train with Adam in Eastern Idaho, and I hang out with Ryan a lot.
So you want a knife violence?
I want to see those two knife violence against each other.
No, I don't want to fight Adam. I
And
don't want to fight anybody.
And then I want to put that on Master Ken. I want to have both of them on Master Ken's Instagram.
Yeah.
So I want to see who wins.
So with Adam's a friend of mine, and I look up to him, and I find value in everything Adam says to people, and I think that, and I've trained with him.
Yeah, it's a different philosophy, though.
It's different, which is fine. I think that you should learn from as many people as possible, and you should put that in your tool belt. And if the need arises or whatever it is, you can go to that tool and get to work. What you decide to make your mantra or make the thing that you do truth to yourself, it's up to you. It's up to every individual. I don't care what people want to do in their individual life. Do what's best for you. Do what's going to make you more successful in the real world. That's fine. But the system that comes from is there's a weird legality angle or light to that system. Janich?
Yeah, Michael Janich.
System is if I get fucked this up, I'm sorry, but if you were to cut somebody with the edge weapon and fuck them up somehow, that you could eventually go to court of law and talk your way out of any kind of litigation based on the fact that you learned a martial art that was less than lethal, or was to disable them and not to kill them.
Yeah, that's probably closer to it. It's more like just to minimize the threat.
Minimize the threat, yeah. So that's great. I mean, fantastic. I'm happy to know all the information. I'm happy to put that in my brain and understand it and to process it. But me personally, if I have to pull a weapon, a firearm, a knife out of my concealment and to deploy it, I'm going to kill you. And everything else is going to happen after the fact.
Well, dead people don't sue so much.
Well,
their family does.
Yeah, I'm not going to shoot anybody in the foot. I'm not going to shoot anybody in the dick to be funny. Like pelvic girls, an awful place to get shot. But I'm going to shoot or stab you in a way to end your life. Yeah. And end it as quickly as possible, and put you down the ground.
What do you mean?
I'm going to shoot you to the ground.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot you to the threat's gone.
What he's getting at too is that we don't draw our weapons from concealment for anything less than defending against deadly force, and we engage with the same amount of force.
Yeah. Imminent mortal danger. I'm putting you down. Like I just have to be extremely biased in that situation. I don't want to have any kind of wavering thoughts or I want to think about anything that's going to make me soft in that instance. I want to put you down because I've already observed you. I've already oriented myself towards you. I've decided what to do, and now I'm going to act. It's my OODA loop, right? So I'm going to act on you with extreme prejudice. It's you or me, and you're going down. Yeah. I have to act that way to complete what I want to get done. So that's the way I process things in my mind.
Which, in his defense, is defending his life.
Or my kids or whatever. I'm not worried about a lawyer or a judge. I'd happily sit in jail the rest of my life if my kid's not dead. Yeah, exactly. I will sit in prison.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
But that being said, I understand. Like I got value to training with Adam. I understand like human anatomy. We break it down to lower limbs, past the elbow, past the knee. I like it. I like that stuff. I mean,
He doesn't teach palm strike to the face
Yeah.
and knife to the eyeball.
right.
I'm not gonna say we haven't talked about it.
I mean, you were talking about hatchets, so
Yeah, we did some tomahawk stuff, which was
Yeah.
freaking awesome. Yeah,
I think it's
so
great.
rad.
I think you put everything in your tool
I have a
tool belt.
tomahawk in my nightstand.
You
Tomahawk
should
work
you
is
should
fun.
never have an aversion
Flashbang
to
and
different
tomahawk in my nightstand. Is
different lines of thought. You should
Yeah.
if there's different lines of thought, take it all in and make a decision for yourself. I think it's great.
Yeah, I think like for me, I want to learn as many systems as I can
Yeah.
retain
Yeah,
because there might be a situation where NBC won't work.
That's that Bruce Lee
Yeah,
shit,
yeah.
you know. So that I don't have any kind of father. There's no father to my style. I just do whatever happens.
Yeah.
I adapt to the situation. So I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Adam wouldn't have my back. I'd trust my life with that guy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Oh, he subscribes to this knife karate shit. Oh no, I would literally put my life in Adam's hands.
Yeah.
You know, like he's a capable dude,
Yes, he is.
and he's a physical dude, and he's a professional dude,
Yeah.
and he's my friend. So yeah, there's no doubts in my mind. So people need to understand it's not disagreeing with a methodology.
No.
It's just subscribing to a different light. That's all it is, and it's fine. Everyone can have
Well,
their own thing.
And the other thing that I think is fair to put into the equation is your life experience is a little different too.
Yeah.
Because you've been to so many different places and dealt with so many different issues, you're like, no, I'm going to do this way because my life experience says this is the way to dispatch the problem.
Yeah, I've had to give license to a lot of people in my life. So when I have a protective detail in Colombia or anywhere in Rio de Janeiro or whatever, those are my guys. Like I have to literally put my life in their hands every time we move. Are the armored vehicles redundant? Are they, there's a lot of things that happen with armored vehicles, by the way, that people don't talk about. They go down constantly. There's always mechanical or technical problems with them. Anyway, dealing with local security people, do they know what they're doing? Are they caught up in the surprise attack of the fame and the people that are attacking you on the street? There's people that have no ill intent, really. Yeah. There's fans that are everywhere. Are they is their judgment clouded by these people? Have they done it before? Have they been there, done that type thing? There's a lot to consider when you go to other places and you put your life in someone else's hand. And I'm very comfortable doing that in a weird way. I go all over the world, and I have local dudes that are in charge of me, basically.
Well, you've also created a network, or you've been introduced to that network that you do trust.
Yeah. So you learn to accept things that aren't exactly like you've practiced at home in your garage truck or whatever at Uncle Rico. Like, this isn't the knife karate I do by myself on Wednesdays. You know,
throw a pigskin over that mountain.
Yeah, no it doesn't matter because those people are capable in that environment. It's endemics, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, when I started doing stuff with Adam, like, because I've known Adam for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? He grew up in the same town that
cool.
I live in, and I've known him for quite a while. And so I didn't realize that he did any kind of edge stuff until he had one of his seminars. Okay,
yeah.
And then
Steve showed up with his Kershaw pocket.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, let's do it.
It'll work.
Kershaw, my ass. It was a Walmart.
Yeah.
No, but that in itself changed my perspective of buying a $20 knife or whatever. I mean, sometimes it still gets the job done, but it's not as effective as it could be, I should say.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot.
There's no doubt that the fixed blade is king. When you talk, I mean, you can talk to people that carry folder versus fixed blade. Fixed blade is king. It's faster. There's less moving parts. Yada yada yada. If you have a folder, it's usually for legality issues here in California or whatever.
New York,
New York is a big no.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
You're gonna have a butter knife over there, and don't have the new, better butter knife. You gotta have a traditional.
It can't be Land O'Lakes.
Yeah.
Which is weird because there's kids that carry fixed blades around London constantly. They have the biggest stabbing epidemic on Earth, but they're illegal. But how do they get around it? It's their narrative, It's when they go to what's called Tesco. Tesco is a 7-Eleven of England, They go into Tesco and buy a fruit knife or a paring knife for a couple of quid or a couple of dollars, and they carry it in their pocket with the package on. That knife will stab through the package just as easy.
This just segued perfectly into what I wanted to go into next. So that was something you talked about in the course that I sat in on. was the paring knife
Yeah.
and going and picking up the knife when you got in country.
Yeah, source
so
it.
sourcing, exactly. So I kind of want to touch on that before we into this, because that was something that also stuck with me, was when you get to where you're going, sourcing the tools and the equipment that you needed from things that you might not expect. We talked about the paring knife, we talked about hangers, we talked about medical stuff.
Yeah.
If you can just slightly touch on that. I mean, I want
Yeah.
people to come take the classes.
we don't want to compromise. the
Yeah,
plan.
no, it's fine.
But just a little bit, because that was something that
it's
I
all.
still think about every time I go to a hotel and I look at the hangers.
Yeah, I break hangers in half and rub them on the carpet and sharpen them, and it's like, there you go, that'll go in your face. So if it's a thick plastic hanger, yeah, you could do that anywhere you're at in any kind of hotel or whatever around the world.
Maybe you tell the medical story that you told.
Yeah, medical is weird. Most guys that travel with medical gear, they've got a cursory knowledge of how to use it and whatnot. You have your tourniquet, you got your packing material, you got your chest seals, your basic S-March system set up, massive hemorrhaging, airway, respiratory, circulation, and head injury and hypothermia. You have this weird acronym that you lay out to diagnose patients and treat them under fire, under care under fire type stuff. But yeah, if you can't take those things around the world, you should be able to source it. So like tourniquet's a funny thing, because my buddy Micah, who goes by Classic McQueen online. Micah looks like a fucking dirty pirate. I mean, he looks like a drug mule. If you had to draw a picture of a drug mule, it'd be Micah. And partially because he's one of those sketchy characters that travels the world, so he looks that way. He looks like a pirate. All the necklaces, wristbands, the glasses, the Hawaiian shirt and the beard and shit. He lists the tattoos. When he was in Southeast Asia, he got pulled out of customs in a certain country, and he had a rat's tourniquet on him. And the rat's tourniquet's that band, that thin band,
stretchy band,
stretchy band. That's good for pets and whatnot, little kids. Whatever your thoughts are on that, I don't care. But he had a rat's tourniquet on him, and they pulled him aside for having drug paraphernalia because they thought he was a heroin addict with a band to clamp off his veins and to pop it up, So they kept him in the tank for a long time, and he was gone missing because he's in custody of another government body. But what does it say about you? What do those things say about you? I was in Japan last January with the band I'm currently with. We rolled in there to do some shows and some big stadiums. I had a visa that was from the big promoter, and my paperwork was solid. It was ironclad. I mean, I am who I say I am, But they still fucked with me at customs. In Japan, it's not one of those countries that fucks with me. I've been there for 20 years, every couple of times a year for 20 years. I don't ever get stopped there. For whatever reason, the agent that stopped me there didn't like me. He didn't like something. Something didn't compute. He was pulling thread, we say. He saw me, something didn't fit, so he's going to pull the thread. When you pull the thread, everything falls apart. He's like, I'm going to look into this guy. So he decides to dive into my luggage and ask me more questions, and I'm just obliging and telling him stuff. He pulls out my med kit from my backpack, and I've got these bright orange tourniquets and these bright yellow-green tourniquets and all kinds of weird faggy colors and stuff, purple bags and stuff, orange backpack. I want to make it look as soft and as unassuming as possible. I don't like to have patches everywhere, like 5'11", Molly.
He's not running around being the most tactical person in the air.
No, I don't want to look tactical. And people that see me walking through airports, they don't think I look tactical. I wear gym shorts and weird shirts with garbage pail kids on it, the mohawk. I'm not very tactical looking.
The garbage pail thing is a joke we will tell later.
I'm a big dude with tattoos. I don't look like a tactical type dude, I think. Right. I could be misconstrued somewhere around the world. But I go in this customs, and they pull me aside, and they want to know what's going on. And I tell them who I am. I show them my paperwork. And they want to know why I have so much medical gear on me. They don't believe what I'm saying. I say, I do security for these people, and I'm here for this amount of time. Here's my visa. Here's my landing card. Here's whatever, my passport. It just didn't make any sense to them. They're like, why would you need this to work for these people? What is going to happen in your course of work where you would require 5 tourniquets and all that? So it went to the next level up. Supervisor comes over, start questioning more, same questions, redundant type stuff, to see if I fuck up my line of questioning. I'm telling the truth, so everything checks out, and they're just staring at me like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Because it doesn't fit their idea of normal. No one in Japan carries 5 tourniquets. In America, you might say, "Well, you're some fucking weird internet nerd, medic or something." I even told him.
Which Ryan kind of is a weird.
Yeah, I'm a weird guy. But I told him, I literally told him I was a nurse, and then I told him I'm a doctor. A doctor. And they were like, they didn't give a shit, And they asked me if I had a license for this stuff, and I said, "Do I need one?" Like, no. Okay. Then what are we talking about? They try to be smart, But that broke their baseline of normal. No one rolls through that checkpoint with 5 tourniquets, and I did. Didn't matter what color they were. Didn't care what my narrative was. Am I working? Do I have paperwork? It didn't fucking matter. It broke their baseline as an anomaly, and they pulled me aside, and they were going to figure out what was going on. They were pull the thread, look through all my luggage to put that missing piece together to catch me doing something bad. And when they let me go, they told me, "Look, we thought you were going to do something nefarious. Like you were planning on getting shot by the police or whatever."
Which, if you think of it from their perspective, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, why is this guy coming into our country with 5 tourniquets and this other medkit?
Yeah.
Is he planning on getting shot? Well, what do people that plan on getting shot plan on doing?
Yeah.
Does he plan on getting in a gunfight or engaging in violence? That's the only reason. And it makes sense when you think of it. I mean, you listen to this, you're like, "Oh, fuck them, like they're being stupid." But when you really turn it around and you think, like, if you're doing what we're talking about in this podcast and you're profiling and being situationally aware, that's what they're doing. They're going, only people who plan on getting hurt have 5 tourniquets.
Yeah. So you're going to carry out some kind of nefarious act, and those are for you, basically self-care. So which wasn't in my mind. I couldn't understand what they were thinking, but they came out and told me. I'm like, well, so aspect is everything, context is everything, and if you can't carry those things into the country, just source it. Sometimes people don't let you bring that shit in because they think it's weird or whatever. They don't explain themselves to you. Right. Your idea of normal stays at home. Like, it's not America. You don't carry your constitution with you.
I think that people forget, like, when you go to other countries, it's not America.
Yeah.
Like what we do and see and experience here, that's not what you do and see and experience.
That's your baseline. You have one baseline. Yeah. But a guy like me, I have to have 53 baselines. Like, I have to know what country I'm going to. The first time I went to Singapore, I ordered all kinds of armored vehicles and security, armed guys and stuff in the hotel, armed guys on every floor that we're occupying, all this shit. I had rooming lists, needs. I went way overboard. I didn't know that Singapore was a financial hub for Southeast Asia. I didn't know that Singapore had 0 crime. I didn't know that it was illegal to chew bubble gum there. Because I was a young kid out of college and I didn't understand what the normal was there. So when I came in with these requests, people were like, "Who the fuck are you? Like, you want armored? We don't even have armored cars here. The president's the only one that has it." So they were offended.
Ryan ordered the president's armored car.
And of course they were offended.
Hillary Duff to cruise around.
Yeah. Can I rent it for a week?
They were like, "If we tell people don't do shit, they won't do it." I'm like, well, I've never been there, so I really don't know what I'm talking about. You hear Singapore, all that comes to mind is Bill Clinton bailing out that kid that spray painted that car and got caned on TV.
Oh,
it's like,
that's going back.
Yeah, and I'm 42, so I remember that when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, there was no other discussion about Singapore ever in our normal day-to-day life.
That's because they're a safe country.
Well, yeah, it's a financial hub. Like, it's a weird mutt area where people all look different. They speak English. By the way, English is the primary language in Singapore. If you didn't know that, so it's the baseline. It's understanding what you're going into before you go into it. That'll save you a lot of headaches and troubles in the private security world.
Okay, if you want to ask your questions, you can, because I know that we've gone a little.
Yeah, we went a little heavy on the time, and I really appreciate you hanging out.
It's all right. I talk endlessly.
Yeah. I'm gonna take him and go talk more after this.
You're just gonna leave me alone?
Hey, you come
We
over.
love Ryan.
Okay. All right. So
You're staying at my house.
I know that's what I'm saying. I'm like, geez. So these questions, usually when we have a guest on the show, like I like to get a little bit deeper into who they are, and that's what these questions are designed to do, is just to get to know you on a different level than the tactical cool side or whatever.
Sure.
You can self-redact anything.
Yeah, actually,
I'm not so cool. So that's fine.
I actually had well, I won't tell you who it is, but we had to go back and redact a lot of information from the questions. Like, I don't feel comfortable with that. Let's just cut that out.
Yeah.
So
That
If
was
you,
before I was in charge because
Yep.
I listed this shit will be live in 30 minutes.
it was before you. So if you just like you said, if you feel like
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at governing my words.
Okay.
I'm good at
That's
it.
it. That's his. We just talked about this in the beginning. His entire career is based on knowing what he can and can't
Privacy
say.
Sure,
and giving away clues and stuff. Yeah, I'm good at that.
Okay. So number one, what experience in your life has been the most influential and why?
Oh gosh.
And you can't use Hillary.
I don't know if I could pinpoint it to one thing, but with Hillary, I worked for her for 8 years, so I was exposed to a lot of things that aren't on your radar.
Is
as
that
a
the
person.
longest that you've been with one client?
Yeah. So with Hillary, I worked for her. I was in her house every single day from sun to sundown. Like it was or sometimes overnight. Like it was very normal. Or if we're on tour, obviously we're connected in rooms and hotels, so we were very close. I mean, I was with her for her first childbirth, her wedding. Like I was with her for all that stuff, 16 to 24. So it's a big deal when you're with a young girl from 16 to 24. You're like a figurehead in that person's life. You know? So
Sorry to sidetrack. I'm notorious for that. So
Damn it, Nick.
most influential experience if you have one. Or maybe it's just a genericized.
You know what? I won't pinpoint any particular person, but dealing with a stalker for the first time, a celebrity stalker.
Like a stalker of a celebrity? Or?
Yeah, of a person that I'm with. I'm going to kill you with this gun on this date type thing. Like a very specific threat, which is illegal. It's a terrorist threat, right? I'm from LA. I'm born and raised in LA County. And LAPD's got a specific group of detectives called Threat Management Unit, TMU. They're attached to the Mental Evaluation Unit, the MEU, which is attached to the District Attorney, the DA. So I was working with this group of detectives to nail down stalkers. They're great at what they do. LAPD is the only group that I know of in the world that's got a dedicated group of detectives aimed at celebrity stalkers. It's because it's news. There's a lot of pressure on that police department to deal with these weirdos.
Yeah.
They got tired of it, and they just dedicated a group of detectives to these problems.
And it's also the hub of celebrity.
It is, yeah. So there's a high concentration density of celebrities in the area. But dealing with all of that, the district attorney and private detectives and LAPD detectives that have weird fuzzy rules and laws. Like they have different holds and stuff. They don't have to give you a reason to hold you for a long time. It's weird for a person that's like a freedom-based mind. You're like, what do you mean you can hold them forever? It's a weird thing for law enforcement. So dealing with that and the things that go through your mind when someone is going to come to your defensive position and kill you. If you know that someone's outside of your house is going to come to your house, knows where you live, knows when you're there, and has a gun, and they have every intention of killing you, everything changes.
Yeah.
You don't have so much attention currency in your mind from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep. You can only think about so many things before you become exhausted or before you start thinking irrationally. So I went through all those phases of really jacked up from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep to trying to figure out what's important, what can I control. You can't worry about the boogeyman 24/7. You have to worry about certain things. And then guess what? Life is happening too.
Yeah.
So I have a TV show. I've got vehicles. I've got work to do. But also there's a person trying to kill me. So it's very easy to shut everything down and just focus on that. It makes sense. It's like the Maslow type thing. Like I need shelter and safety and water and food and everything.
It's like my life and my client's life is more important than the TV show.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about the person trying to.
But also you're trying to keep Ellen DeGeneres on track.
You're trying to keep the client famous and bring in money, but
And
at the same time you're like, but what's more important?
Yeah. But when you start to break it down, the person is focused on you instead of the client. It's like you're the gatekeeper, you're the security person. So obviously I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to do whatever I want with that person. That person shouldn't have to worry about what you worry about. That person should go on with their life, which is a weird thing to talk about when you talk to a young girl about, hey, look, there's problems in our world, and you can't just walk out the front door. You can't just walk out of your front door. You can't just get Starbucks. You can't just go do that. When someone tells you you can't go to Starbucks to get coffee, your world changes because you might die.
I can only imagine. It's like, well, what do you mean I can't just do whatever I want?
So you talk about the levels of weirdness that stack on top of each other with security systems and early detection warning systems and cameras everywhere. You know, when you're in your house and there's 24, 30 cameras around your property, and they blow up on all the big screens in your house every time someone moves because the lasers pick them up. Guess what? Your mind is shit now. Yeah. You're like a hermit waiting to die, and you have to continue to live your life. So dealing with celebrity stalkers was a thing to get used to, but also I feel like I did, and I excelled at that, and that's why I got hired by so many different people to deal with that. It's fucked up. Like, I don't care who the fuck you are or what experience, how many people you killed or you've been overseas. That's fantastic. You're not in Beverly Hills sitting in someone's house with some weirdo floating around. It's completely different. Your baselines are all fucked up. The anomalies are everywhere. You're like, nothing fits. Nothing makes sense. So I always say that would probably be the biggest.
That's kind of that you were the prey, not the hunter type thing.
Yeah, because you don't control everything out there. You control what you control: your vehicles, your movement. Your
timing. I think, especially for someone like you, but all of us, like it's a weird concept to say, well, I'm going to be the prey, not the predator.
Yeah.
Because we all like to go through life thinking, I'm the fucking predator. I'm the wolf. Like nobody's going to fuck with me. But then when you're in that situation, it's like, well, I can't just run out and find the guy.
It's the Jack in the Box.
I have to make sure that if it shows up, I can defend against it.
Yeah.
But I have to sit here until that happens, and that gets your brain going. Just like everything you just described.
Yeah.
Like,
and we say Jack in the Box. So I put it in front of you and start cranking it. You know that fucker's coming out.
Yeah.
But when it comes out, you go, ugh! It's just.
It could be 2 turns or it could be 20.
It doesn't matter. You're anticipating it, but you can't ever be prepared for the Jack in the Box to come out.
I bet you never expected that answer.
No, that's why I do these questions.
All right, next one.
All right, number 2. You just won the lottery. It's a crazy amount of money. What are you going to do with it?
Oh, God. I'm a weirdo, and I could, I thought about this, obviously. Initially on the top of my soft part of my ring, I want to get on a jet and just go to Maui or some shit and just like be dumb and just
not be guarding anyone.
Yeah, just go away from everybody. Turn my phone off, and you can call me on a landline that I answer once a week, Sunday at 5 p.m.
Get on the ham radio.
Yeah, like fucking what's his name? Bill Murray. He just goes to Maui and smokes weed and just doesn't do anything. But honestly, I mean, honest to God, and people that know me know that I'm not fucking around. I'm not kidding about it. I would take that shit and just cut it into pieces and try to affect as many people as possible in my life. It's just, like when you imagine your brother wins the lottery, like you would want your brother or your sister or whatever to take care of you. Like, fucking win the lottery, dude.
I need the cut, man.
Yeah,
come on.
I would just cut that shit up, man. I would just cut it up till it's gone, so I wouldn't have to deal with the burden.
Yeah,
I don't want that heft and weight on me, man. I've seen it firsthand. I deal with people with hundreds of millions of dollars. Like it's a lot of weight, and there's people that come around. There's family members, and like I've seen families fall apart because of wealth. Like first front row seat to that shit, and you're like, why does this have to happen? Like I don't understand, and your reptile brain kicks in. You're like, survive, or just get away from these people. Fuck them. But it's not reality. You want to keep your bubble tight. You want to keep the people that you know and the people that you communicate with. Break that shit off, man. Like I would. I don't know if it's different from the lottery where someone just gives me something to me, like being a celebrity and working for it.
I think that when you were just explaining that, and right before you said that, I was thinking, it might be a little different if you were just
athlete.
If you're just handed $100 million versus you worked your entire life from 10 years old to become a professional baseball player and you've done everything and put in the work. But if you won the lottery, like you said, what is it to
my college roommate he got drafted and he played for a few different teams, played for the Pittsburgh Steelers, became the starting center, won the Super Bowl. And guess what? Everybody came out of the woodworks. Dude, you're rich. He's on WWE wrestling people as a Super Bowl champion, big ring. King of Pittsburgh, all this shit. It's like, I know that shit fades, I know that that money can't last your whole life, but everyone thinks you're filthy rich because you're on Febreze commercials or whatever.
Well,
It's
celebrities are a bad example of wealth
Yeah.
because it's like 85% of all celebrities go broke within 3
Yeah.
years. of
Well,
being
same
in
thing
jail.
with lottery winners, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, lottery winners is even higher. It's like 95% of lottery
It
winners
burns
go
off,
broke
dude.
in
So
3
burn
years.
that shit off. Peel that shit off. All people that you're familiar with, and just, man, take care of your bubble. Because guess what? It's gonna burn off anyway, and you won't have anyone there to fucking insulate you. Like
Yeah.
no one will care about you because you fucking left them in the ditch
This
when
is
you're
the
rich.
first time I think that we've gotten that in.
And I think that's probably the most real answer
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, 100%.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
I thought
I
about
can
it.
tell. I can tell. All right, number 3. What's your biggest fear?
Oh God, a guy like me is not scared of anything.
Everyone's scared of him.
That's true.
It's my biggest fears are just things I can't control. You know, so I've got 3 kids. You know, and they're in 3 different schools, and there's things that like I have to. My biggest fears have become a reality because of what's happened in the last fucking 16 months or whatever.
Yeah.
COVID and the media and the battle for your child's mind against the TV and the celebrity. Like, I'm from the celebrity world, but the things I see celebrities saying and doing is fucking retarded. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, what are we talking about right now? I don't understand how we're just throwing our freedoms away. I mean, I guess in short, my biggest fear is losing freedoms. As an American, I fucking, I bleed red, white, and blue, man. Like, I love this country and I love my freedoms. And anything that has to do with taking it away, you just automatically turn into this fucking weird psychopath.
I 100% right now regret not letting Steve do the video today for the first time because Ryan flew through the door,
Dude, it was awesome.
American flag swim trunks and
Crocs.
American flag Crocs,
Oh, yeah.
and he came flying through the door. We were
He
talking.
said something we won't say.
and I was like, "Holy shit!"
Hey, look, I've worked for a paycheck in 53 countries in 20 years. I've seen all I want to see of the world.
Yeah.
I've seen all I want to see of America. I live in Boise, Idaho for a reason. It's not by mistake. It wasn't because someone wrote an article. It's because
he started following me on Instagram.
yeah, it's because of holsters. I've
I
been
think I'm keeping from Boise, honestly.
yeah, I've been coming here for 20 years. I made friends here before I came here, and I saw what it had become. I figured everything out in my head. The math is done in my head already before I moved my family here and convinced them to go with me. But my biggest fears are to lose the minds of the people that are around me, really. And that's a really hard nut to crack if you've got kids. If you've got kids, you want to be the influence on them. You want to show them the world according to your lens, right? So when they go out into the world, you prepare them for all the pitfalls that dumbasses come across. But now, everything's weird. Everything's all fucked up. You're supposed to think a certain way. Your sensibilities are in tune, and if you don't think this, then you're this.
Yep.
It's not the case. It's not a fact. And dealing with everything versus me in regards to my children is my biggest fucking fear, really. Yeah. It's a battle, man. It's a real thing. If you've got kids that are developing and becoming adults, they either subscribe to what you're thinking or what you're talking about, or they might show you some kind of like, I don't know if you're telling the truth.
Yeah.
And that's a weird place to be.
It's hard. It's kind of scary.
It is scary, yeah.
All right, 4th one. What would you say is your biggest achievement?
My biggest achievement is keeping a family together after being on the road for 20 years.
Yeah.
I think it's, I look around dudes that are in my office, in my crew, anywhere in the world. I could be in fucking Madrid, Spain, and looking around the people that are around me. And there's very few dudes that have 3 kids and a wife at home and a big house and like a dog and everything's cool. It's very rare. I mean, it's like 1 in 100. So I think that's one of the biggest accomplishments is keeping it together. Really, keeping my shit together for myself too. People have breakdowns and they lose their mind. Being out there too long and not being around any kind of anchor. If you're gone for 3-4 months and you're around this weird lifestyle where things happen and fuck, you're with a Hall of Fame band and you're blowing up the world and there's people all around and you're so cool and like.
Ryan definitely has a pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I was actually kind of thinking about this. Like, he's married, he's got kids. I would refer to it as the natural man. Obviously, the natural man has a tendency just to go to the lowest level. And like you're saying, some of the dudes that you're surrounded with, some of them have had a hard time keeping focused.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for everybody. You'd be a dumbass to deny that. It's a hard predicament to be in, but it really has to do. I don't want to take credit for it. It has to do with those people, not you, really.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, your girl for sticking around.
Yeah.
And all the thoughts flowing through her mind about who you're with and what you're doing. And, oh yeah, I'm in Thailand today with a famous rock band. You're like, well, what's going on over there?
Well,
You know?
she has to be home, taking care of the family, taking care of the house, like getting the kids to school.
Yeah, which is
the
another
dog,
stress.
like that's a lot of stress, and then you're gone. But like I said, his wife is amazing.
Yeah,
She'd have to be.
she's I mean, she's good looking.
I wasn't gonna say it.
She's
I was
a great
say
mom.
it.
She's got 3 kids, you know, and she puts up with my bullshit, which is, you know, ridiculous to think about.
His kids are pretty awesome too. I was
My
over
kids
at
are
his
awesome.
house one night. His daughter came out and said, "Will you shut up? I'm
Yeah.
trying to sleep."
My kids don't fuck around. Yeah, especially my daughters.
And then his son tried to choke me out.
Yeah, he's an animal. You'll
I
hear
heard
about
that
him
he
one
did
day.
choke you out.
Yeah,
Only with Johnny's help.
yeah. He
He
hangs
had
around.
some pointers.
Jiu-jitsu boxing kid, you know. My daughters are brilliant piano players and straight A students. And I'm blessed for that, and it's like trying to keep that together, keep those people under my wing, so to speak, and keep it all in order. It's been a challenge, you know. But during COVID, it's been actually kind of nice because I've been home a lot, and which is weird for everybody.
This is
Because-
probably the most that you've been home.
This is the most I've been home as an adult.
Stretch.
Yeah, as an adult. Usually I'm gone 9 months a year.
So with being home that much, did it make you second guess going back on the road?
Of course. Yeah. It's one of those things where you find out. So I've already played this game. You know, once you start to tour with bands and celebrities, you start making good money. It's no secret, you know. It's not bragging. It's not patting myself on the back. It's just what it is, you know. You make good money, and when you stop and you try to do something else, like for yourself, you're like, wow, this fucking sucks. You're like, I'm making half what I made for double the work. I don't like it. And then when someone calls you and says, hey, look, you're like, I'm on it. Because I just want to pay the bills. I want to have a certain kind of lifestyle. And everyone knows how much money they make. But if you had to work double for that same amount, you'd fucking big thumbs down. You know, I'm not doing that.
Dislike.
Yeah, so I've done it. I've tried to stay home. I've tried to do local stuff. I try to work for people in LA and events and whatnot. No go.
It's just not the same.
No go. And I'm not as good at it. You know, like when I go on tour, like I feel at home. I feel like this is my pocket. I'm good at this stuff, and everyone around me knows it.
So do you train other people on how to do the types of things that you do in the security world?
Yeah, I've trained. Well, you know, when you say train.
I guess what I'm saying, like, if Drew here decided I would love to try and be a celebrity man, like do what Ryan does.
I would say I don't know what you're talking about. So every single day that I'm out in the world doing something, there's some security doofus that comes up to me and says, "Hey man, how'd you get into this? You got a family at home?" Like it's the same line of questioning.
Yeah.
And I have very generic answers for everybody. I'm like, I don't know, man. No family. I don't want to get into it.
He's
Right.
giving me that same answer on some shit that
Yeah.
I've asked.
I just
don't
go,
know.
no, man. It's this weird, man. It's this weird world. Anyway, I need you to do this. Like, I don't even like. Why would I get?
So the answer to that question is no. Ryan will not help you become a celebrity security.
You know what's funny?
person.
I brought in a few guys over 20 years. I mean, it's not often. And a couple guys were special forces type dudes, like straight A personalities, like just nail hitters. Like, they failed. Navy SEAL come in, failed. He was bored. Then I had a dude who was out of a nightclub who, you know, usually nightclub bouncers, I'm like, fuck this. Like, you're not fit for this. And there was something about him that I really
Which
liked.
is funny because that's what you think.
No, well, I mean, in college, you know, but not.
But you didn't have like extensive experience.
I wasn't like an LA nightclub dude. I was just a fucking Lawrence, Kansas bar dude. You know, there's 30 people in the bar. It was like, you know,
Big corn-fed dude just
Yeah.
doing your shit.
$40 a
And-
night.
Yeah.
And you were what, 350? Fucking
Oh,
push
6'2",
them out the
350,
door.
yeah, 500-pound bench press, throw people through walls. So it was no big deal. But I met this guy at a nightclub in Hollywood, and he ended up working out. He was dialed in, Loctite, and he got his own gigs after I kind of showed him stuff and brought him under my wing. And then right now he looks after Prince Harry. You know,
Wow.
he's a royal family dude, and like I can't take credit for it. You know, there's a guy that brought me into the game and brought some other really well-known names into the security business, and he asked me, when are you gonna buy me a Rolex for all the money you've made because of me? I'm like, well, you weren't there when I was going through this. You weren't there. You introduced me to some people. You showed me some stuff. Fantastic. You can shake your hand. Thank you. The same thing goes for him. Like, he looked after The Rock for like 4 or 5 years. Dwayne Johnson, and it's like, I can't take credit for the dude. Like, he learned on his own. All this shit it's all him.
The guy that you brought in.
Yeah.
He worked.
He went from nightclub to some other rock bands with female singers, and then he went to The Rock, and then he's with the royal family. It's like, I won't say his name because the work he does now is very.
But I think that almost, and I know it's not like monetary value, but the idea that you think about, like, hey, I brought that guy in, and now look how at the accomplishments.
I think it's great.
That's kind of like gratitude on its own, where it's like, I'm happy that it worked out for the guy, and I'm even happier that I made a good decision to bring him in.
Yeah. And that person will always, in the back of their mind, remember what you've done for them, and maybe someday they'll repay you or whatever. But if they don't, who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
I don't have any plans to repay the guy that introduced me to people. I just don't.
You know what I think, and I'm not a part of that world, but I think one of the best repayments would be having a fucking drink with the dude and just sharing the fucking stories of where you've been.
Yeah. It's a weird dynamic, man. Unless you've done it, I've been in 20 years, So it's like, you go 20 years ago, I was a dumbass. I was a knucklehead, punching everybody. And it's like, yeah, I've come a long way, but that person that introduced me to people, he didn't mature me. He didn't make me into the man I am now. It was an experience.
He just got you started.
Yeah.
He saw something in you, just like you saw in the nightclub guy. And they were right.
It doesn't lessen the fact that he put his faith into me.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. It's great, but what is it worth? Like, I could put somebody on, but it mostly fails. At this point. So
crazy. All right, cool. Last one. You ready for this one?
Sure.
By far my favorite question. I have to let that.
7 inches.
yeah, right.
Okay, 6.
Girthy, 6 inches.
Talking centimeters, or what's going on here? All right. Who would you consider as your greatest hero?
Oh God. You know what? I don't look up to people in a weird way. I've never looked at somebody and said, "You're my hero." I've never done that. But I mean, it sounds retarded. I know you're not supposed to say that. That's how I feel.
You're fine.
My parents are. It's a weird thing because I have a weird relationship with my folks. My dad worked for the federal government 30 years, works for the state of California almost 20 years now. My mom was an educator, shrink. Very cold people. They weren't very, I don't remember getting hugged a lot. The first time my dad told me he loved me, I cried. I was like in college. I don't know why I'm crying. Some weird emotional response that I didn't understand. It's because they never told me that. And it's not a bad thing because I didn't know the difference. I didn't grow up saying, "Oh, my parents will tell me they love me." They were just very, as a matter of fact, get up, go to work, do your stuff, don't fuck around, and just don't be a pussy. It was a very weird way of being brought up. When I got punched in the face for the first time, I was 7 years old, in Crenshaw Boulevard in California, South LA. Got punched in my face. My mom came and said, "Why are you crying?" I said, "That kid punched me in the face." She said, "Go over there and fight him." And I got made fun of by my entire family for crying after someone punched me in the face. That was my wake-up call. Like, you're a man now. Don't let anyone punk you, But the things that they taught me as a kid, it just helped me as an adult, man. All the stuff of being responsible, being accountable, and not being a pussy, not being emotional. Don't put all that stuff out there. Just keep yourself tight and just do it. It was a big deal. It's supposed to carry me through my professional career and through my relationship, really, even though I'm not the most loving person. Like, my kids will tell you, I'm not a very loving person. I'm kind of a cold person. That's kind of how I was raised. And I don't mean to do that. I don't get off on being some kind of tough guy, or I don't consider myself a tough guy around my friends and family. I don't act that way. But when it comes to real situations, I am very cold. Like, when someone dies or whatever, I'm like, oh well. Like, I'm not.
Sorry about it.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not gonna sit on your gravestone and cry.
I can definitely resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because people have told me that I'm not very compassionate because when things like that happen, I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
I feel bad, like somebody died. But
your emotions are going to change it.
But yeah, I can't make a difference in the world by sitting over here and crying because my grandma died.
Yeah.
Obviously, that close to home, it might for a minute or for a while be devastating. But what are you going to do?
Yeah.
What do you like? I have a friend just recently from high school. We grew up wrestling together. We've known a long time. He committed suicide, and my other buddy called me and asked me on it. Like, damn, did I talk to him like 2 weeks ago? That fucking sucks. Like, I don't understand why he would do that. But I didn't. I don't have any emotional response towards it because what am I gonna do?
So I grew up in Torrance, California, which with big Little League.
Played many a tournaments down there.
Yeah, Torrance is a big.
So I grew up in the Central Valley in California.
Yeah,
so
Torrance, heavy hitters.
Yeah, so I grew up like in a similar fashion that you did. Like
you got punched in the face.
Yeah, I did actually.
You grew up to be a pussy, and he grew up to be a bad
a pussy. And you still cannot chug a beer fast enough.
Now chugging a beer is now.
But similar fashion. Grew up in a very rural area, whereas if you had a dispute with somebody, you handle it you handle it out back in school. You handle it out back in the playground. I got punched in the face first time when I was in 7th grade.
Yeah. And
I told my dad about it. My dad was like, "Did you win?"
Yeah.
I go, "Well, yeah, kind of." And he goes, what do you mean, kind of? Did you win or did you not win? I go, "Well, we both kind of like got tired and kind of quit." And he goes, "You go back tomorrow and you fucking kick that kid's ass."
Yeah.
That's funny because I was listening to a podcast and they were interviewing someone the other day, and he said, "Yeah, I got made fun of and was kind of overweight in high school or in middle school, and they used to pour chocolate milk on my head. And one of the kids poured chocolate milk on my head and punched me, and then they'd run off. And I went home crying to my dad, and his dad said, well, kind of consoled him for a minute and said, look, here's the deal. I want you to get out of the house. You go over to their house, and you beat the shit out of them and don't come home unless you do it."
Right.
And he went over to the person's house, knocked on the door, punched the kid in the face. The kid laid down on the ground crying. He went home, and his dad saw his bruised knuckles and said, "I'm proud of you."
Yeah.
And from then on, they didn't speak about it. But he goes, "It just raised you not to be a pussy in general." And I guess that's before the time where that 12-year-old would have been in jail for assault.
Before the time that we're in.
Tell you what, the world needs more of that now.
Yeah, but that was when they were on this. He was on this podcast being interviewed. This guy, he's 20. The guy was 25 now, and he was being interviewed because he's made millions of dollars in what he does and this and that. And he said when he was asked these same type of questions, that was one of the most influential things that he remembered that steered him in the direction that he was in was that when he got way down, his dad didn't hold him tight and coddle him and tell him, "Oh, it's going to be okay." He said, "No, get the hell out of my house. Don't come back until you've redeemed, until you've shown these people that you're not going to take their shit."
Right.
And from then on, nobody took it.
It's weird now because I'm dealing with it, So my girls are fine. They don't punch people. But my son, you guys have met my son. He's a knucklehead like me.
His son literally choked me out on the couch.
Yeah, he is a knucklehead. Jiu-jitsu, boxing, who's stronger, who could fuck who up. Like everything in his mind is who's in charge. Like his brain thinks one way. It's very linear. So I'm trying to deal with him messing with other kids at school, and the teachers and the principals are calling me. Saying your son said this, your son did that. I'm like, well, yeah, it makes sense. Like, well, no, you go to jail for that, So I'm dealing with that now. It's like you can't be that way anymore, and it sucks. But I'm trying to find the in between because I'm not going to compromise my values based on what everyone says I should do.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm worried about. My kid's going to be 4 at the end of the month, and so my kid is just a million miles an hour until he goes to bed.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I'm worried about. Like when he starts going to like kindergarten, first grade.
Oh, he's definitely
gonna happen.
He's definitely beating someone up in school.
Wait till they hit teenagers.
Yeah, more than likely because even my dad was kind of the same way. Like if I had like say a guy like you picking on me in high school, my dad'd be like, "Go kick his ass."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Dad, you don't understand." Like, I know I'm smaller than the guy, and I know I might get hurt out of this, but my dad's like, "I don't care."
Yeah.
Go do it
to a fault.
If you get hurt, it is what it is. It's kind of one of those things. And so, I kind of want to instill the same kind of principles on my kid as well. Not to take shit from anybody, and be his own person.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Well, right on. You guys got any other questions?
Well, come on, you've got more.
No, I know Ryan. I know Ryan pretty well, and Nick knows Ryan.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you too long. I mean, we really do appreciate you coming hanging out. It's been a blast.
He didn't race me and chugging a beer yet, so
yeah, we will.
Well, we're gonna do that off air. I'm gonna save the rest of those questions for the next time that I get him back when he's not out saving celebrities from stalkers or traveling to one of the. Well, I'm sure he's got to hit. Is there 54 countries? Like you've done 53. Like, is there one that you haven't done?
Yeah, there's a bunch. I think there's like 110 in the world or something. But
so if you got to choose the next one, here's my last question: What would you choose?
Well, we had Israel on the schedule. We had a 2 on the schedule. I can't remember the other one, but it's always the ones that I've never heard of. Like I was in Ljubljana a couple years ago. Yeah, Slovakia,
which is not Libya.
Yeah, Slovenia, Slovakia,
Eastern Europe somewhere.
Where am I at? Ljubljana. What a great place. It was really nice. It was very peaceful.
Is it Sweden?
Eastern Europe. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? I can't even spell it. I couldn't spell it for you. But it's a place.
Never heard of her.
I'm in the country, like spinning around talking to security guys. I'm like, where the fuck are we? I have to take a screenshot from my maps and send it to everybody. But Israel was one that has been eluding me. I've been in the Middle East before, but Israel is the one that it's just escaped me for some reason for 20 years, and I don't understand why. It's been on the schedule like 5-6 times. I've never made the trip.
Worked out.
Yeah.
I've had a bunch of friends travel to Israel, and they say it's.
Yeah.
They say it's really nice. They say it's a lot of people speak English there. Like a lot of people, it's a very enjoyable trip.
Yeah. Istanbul, Turkey's another one because Istanbul's got a crazy history with Constantinople and the Roman Empire. And I've got all these weird tattoos on me that have to do with that. So I've looked into it and I've read up on the topic and I talk about it a lot. But I want to go to Istanbul and just kind of see the different sites that.
Well, seeing the pictures and the old city, the new city, it's kind of mingled together. That would be kind of cool.
Yeah. So I just spent about a month in Dubai. I've been to Abu Dhabi and Dubai before, but I spent an extended period of time there, and I learned a lot about the area, and the sheikdom, and what it means, and the political gains and failures in the area and stuff. It's really interesting stuff to spend time and talk to locals about what's going on, what they think about America and Americans, and whatever it is. It's pretty cool to get different perspective on life from other people.
It's pretty rad.
Well, there you go, guys. Ryan at Fieldworks on Instagram. What else do they need to know about you?
Well, I'm a stud. I am number 1 in the world. I'm the smartest man alive.
Well, he also has.
He's so humble about it.
If you're not following him on Instagram, you need to be. He does silver drops. He's got a T-shirt line. He collaborates on different blades all the time with his
I don't understand
makers.
why I got to get my T-shirts delivered to my house and I can't just come pick them up.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know why I don't have one, but
I'm very hands off with everything. Anything that has my name on it, I don't deal with it.
One now, I got to wait for shipping.
And then you got some classes.
I have some classes coming up. Yeah, I'm actually winding them down. So I'm going to California now to go help make an appearance at a class with a buddy in California, and then I go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, do a class
Beautiful
out
this
there.
time of year.
Yeah, I like Milwaukee. I have other friends.
I think I'm enrolled in your next one here at
Boise.
At
Yeah.
Courses of Action.
Yeah, I don't know. Forward movement.
Forward
Yeah,
movement.
forward movement. I'm doing one there in Boise.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a 1 day class. So I break down the 1 day class into a 4 or 5 hour chunk instead of a 16
Anyways,
hour.
I'll be there.
Yeah. So
I need to be in that
If you need me as a test dummy for anything,
Yeah.
I'm all
You do
for it.
not want to be his test dummy.
I'm all for it. I'm not a pussy.
And here's
You
the
can
thing.
beat me up all
Here's
you
the
want.
thing too. You don't want to team up with somebody that does jujitsu with him, because I was trying to figure out the moves, and I picked the one person in the whole room
Well,
that was a semi-expert.
well, that was your problem
in
when you did
what he
wrestling
did.
in the off season. You didn't do fucking Greco-Roman.
Yeah.
I don't even care about that. I got punched in the face like
Yeah.
12 times
It
with a
gets weird.
foam dildo.
I just laugh hysterically in the corner.
It's all good.
Drunk.
You just got to roll with the punches. Dude.
Yeah. So I do Milwaukee, Boise, and then I do one in Tracy, California, with a couple dudes. I'm doing
Where
a
are you
mixed
going
skills
into
class.
Tracy, California?
Tracy's Northern California.
Yeah, I know where Tracy.
There's a guy named Grizzly Medical.
Oh, okay.
Goes by Grizzly Medical, Mr. Barnall, and ASD Concepts. Guy Jared. We're going to talk about Jared's a martial artist. He's a knife sword guy, and Grizzly's a combat medic. So
I was just gonna say because I'm from the Central Valley, so Tracy's
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
north of the Central Valley, and I
Sure.
know Tracy very very well.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
where are you going, Tracy, California?
It'll be a good scene. 3 instructors, 1 class. We have a lot of plans.
That'll be good.
So that'll be a good one to hit. And then back on tour, August 15th, fly to Boston, and then it's over.
You got anything on your tour coming this side of the
Yep,
country?
I'll be in Boise September 21st, I think, 24th, somewhere in there. So you guys are all invited, obviously.
Woohoo!
I'm
For
getting
who?
tickets for that.
Kiss,
For Kiss?
the final end of the road tour.
Oh, is it?
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting
dear.
tickets
Last
for that.
We'll
one.
get tickets to that.
Well, you'll get tickets from me. So
Oh, okay.
it'll be fine.
We'll edit that part out.
I'm the ticket guy, by the way. So yeah,
That's rad.
it'll be fine. Take care of you guys.
Well, all right.
Hell yeah. Well,
I'm excited that Steve came down. Got to meet Ryan. We had to have Drew in the shop
I'm
here
nothing
in
special,
studio.
Don't worry about me.
He's got a voice for radio. Do
Yeah.
you notice that? Like,
and I don't think he really I published his episode before we started.
yeah, like
God,
well, it had to go up before we did this one because we were preempting this episode. So we caught Ryan storming through the door, and it's like literally eagles came
Yeah.
flying through the
We heard
door
it.
with him. And
America came
Drew
to-
definitely is going to be back on the show. Ryan is definitely going to come
Yeah,
back
you're
on
always
the show
welcome,
maybe
dude,
later
always.
in the year.
As long as they feed me beer, I'm good.
Yeah,
And they've
beer's
been,
good.
Drew has been nonstop feeding me beer. I'm about to pee my pants.
Yeah, me too.
So we have got to cut
Yeah,
this
we're
out.
out.
Front loaded on the way
Yeah.
in. So
Wanna
I
go
know.
to the bar after this? Or what?
So,
Yeah.
Steve,
down.
take us out.
All right, you guys be safe. Thanks for hanging out. You can always find us, obviously, on any of the podcasts or wherever you find our podcast. Plus, you can get a hold of me at
Range-minded at iishooting.com.
podcast at iishooting.com.
Podcast.
Yeah, there you
fucking
go.
up.
All right, guys, be safe. Take somebody shooting. Don't do dumb.